Well. What's up, good people? Jeff C here. It's Tuesday, March the 10th, 2020. I hope you're all doing well, and we're going to discuss a few things today, including the wireless technology, the mind reading technology that's sprouting up everywhere, and this push to be able to read everyone's mind through the technology and the types of methods that they're going to be using to do this and the potential dangers of it. Probably going to hear me in a second here. Actually, what's going on here? I want to make sure that my sound is coming in. There we go. All right, so it's all good. Yeah, we're also going to discuss. We're going to start off discussing coronavirus, some of the latest dealing with the coronavirus, how it's manifesting in neighborhoods, and with Camille in particular, because she's seeing some of the stuff manifest in her own neck of the woods. And this is, this is very important because it's not about how valid the actual coronavirus is. It's about how all of society is being engineered and conditioned into this pandemic type of reality that we all have to face and deal with. But the wireless technology, the downloading of consciousness, the sort of neurotech, Neuralink, Elon Musk, where this is all going is pretty scary stuff. We're really on the precipice of a whole new world order, really. And I'm not even talking about a globalist sort of thing when I'm saying that, although that's always the specter that hangs over all of us. But really, I'm talking about the ability for people to, for corporations and for tech to read people's minds and to program people and to monitor, survey everybody on the planet, sort of thing. It's very scary. So with all that being said, I'll bring in my guest, Camille. How are you doing, Camille?
I'm great. Hi. Hello, everyone.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to the show again. And it's great to have you. So yeah, we're going to start off with the coronavirus here because that's the biggest story, obviously going around. And you're noticing things in your neighborhood. Do you want to let us know what's going on?
Well, yeah, it's one strange thing that it's not that strange, but they want to tell us all through our town here that the schools are sending out warnings, and like dance schools and the universities, and even I have a friend who's a probation officer told not to come into the office, all of this. But meanwhile, we have a lot of hospitals in my area, and these people are going to and fro in their scrubs. They're leaving work in their scrubs because they don't launder those anymore here. It got to be too expensive, I guess. And so it seems so silly that if we've got such a scare that they can just wear their same clothes all day long. I know my mom is a retired nurse practitioner, and she said that long ago the nurses used to wear the caps on their heads, and that they stopped doing that because they found that they were contaminated because they were touching them all day long, and that doctors' ties, that it's a similar situation. So I can't imagine people are not touching their clothes.
No, that's not a possibility. In fact, probably be hard to go more than a minute or two without touching your clothes, even if it's just accidentally. But I think that goes to show you it's much more about the theatrics and conditioning the people's minds into this pandemic state reality sort of thing than it is about actually stopping the spread of this so-called virus.
It's interesting too. Where did the panic start? Where did people all of these events getting canceled? I know that one show that I watched, the This Week in Google. They were saying how all of the tech companies pulled out of these events that are global events, and that after they pulled out was when shows started getting canceled, because who wants to go if Google's not there? So that it's like a from their sort of thing. They said that one South by Southwest, the Texas thing, they said that's hundreds of millions of dollars for their economy every year, and that when the tech companies pulled out, now that's shut down, and that's a lot of revenue lost. Although there was, I guess, some people were saying that the townspeople didn't want the events to happen because it brings the cooties in, but I don't know. I guess you'd have to go look at what the locals are saying online. I didn't do that. But
and this is the reality. You ever seen the movie Jaws, the original?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And the scare of the shark in the tourist town on July the 4th weekend,
Yeah.
right? And you can almost understand the mayor's perspective, although he's done very cartoonishly in the film. But it's like you're going to kill the business if you yell shark and everybody thinks there's a shark, sort of thing. So a town that relies completely on tourism being crushed by a scare. And
Meanwhile,
then,
this
yeah,
shark plays right into what they want, to
yes,
transfer us all over to like digital communications. I heard that company Zoom, their stock must have gone up because of all the people that are doing the teleconferencing or whatever it's called
yeah,
these
yeah,
days.
100%. It's and again, all of it's manifesting everywhere. Like here in Montreal, there's a bunch of events that are being canceled. Now, I talked about it yesterday. The NBA was the first
Yeah,
of the pro leagues to say that they're going to play empty stadiums or empty
shocker, it
arenas.
would be them, right?
Yeah, now they're
Yeah,
saying hockey. Just today, I was reading the sports this morning, and it's like the NHL is going to play to empty arenas. So and it's all for show in many ways because it's setting the example. Just like you say, they want to move us into a different realm of communication and
yeah,
interaction, and that'll a lot be digital and non-physical contact sort of thing, which is breaking down relationships, breaking down communities, programming people into a hive mind.
yep,
And that kind of gets into where we're going today with this wireless technology, not just the wireless, but just the mind reading sort of technology that is being developed by many of these corporations. Now, you did a video which was pretty eye opening, dealing with the wireless tech, in particular, the earbuds, and that these wireless or these corporations that are developing, these tech corporations, understand that they say things like the people think the eye is the window to the soul, but it's really the ear or whatever, or the mind. I can't remember the way
yeah,
the quote goes, sort of thing, right? But it's like the ear. They can determine. They can actually read your thoughts through your ears, sort of thing.
yeah. That's what they're saying, and I mean, it's not even just necessarily that it's sound waves or anything like that. If they are editing us through technologies like this, but it sounds like it's a integral part of the rewrite of us all. The refashioning of us. The earbuds play
Yeah.
right into it. They say everybody's going to be wearing them soon.
Well,
But
okay. So yeah, I'm
wait,
gonna.
can
Yeah,
I
go
say
ahead.
two other things
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the corona
absolutely,
before we go to that? Sorry, just
absolutely.
because people, if you're subscribed to my channel, you might have seen I just uploaded the show that Jeff and I did last month on the coronavirus. And one of the things that we talked about, I'm going to throw it in the chat here to you, Jeff.
Yeah.
But one of the things we talked about was how Microsoft, it's in the chat, Microsoft is investing and is working with this adaptive biotech company that wants to sequence the human immune system. So now fast forward to now, and Bill Gates is just so good and loves us so much, and he wants
Oh,
to send out these home tests. Honestly, I see this whole thing, not just with Bill Gates, but with the pharmaceutical companies, anybody that's manufacturing these test kits. It's like, this is a DNA grab in my mind, because they
mm,
want that data, and that's not everybody. Maybe it wouldn't have had to be this way if we'd all just spit in a tube and sent it off to Susan's sister, but we didn't. And so maybe that's what I see is
yeah,
there it is.
yeah.
Because now, I mean, you've seen the articles. I don't think I have to send one of Bill's
Hmm.
giving money for the kits, but they're all sorts of stuff for. Here's another one where Bill Gates or the Gates Foundation's teamed up with the Welcome People, Sanger, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've teamed up with them and with MasterCard, and they're for a COVID-19 therapeutics accelerator and all this stuff. Anyway, Bill's
It's just nuts.
he's so involved. He loves us. He does.
Oh, he
He
just
does.
does. Well, they learned from the royals, from the monarchies, that PR is so important,
Oh
right?
yeah.
That the way that people perceive. So, if the New York Times and the BBC and whatever media's singing your praises all the time, then the average person is going to think you're, some sort of philanthropist. I love that word.
I love how somebody said that. Oh, why would we look to Bill Gates for health matters? He doesn't look at healthy.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And speaking of Bill Gates and all of these people, did you? I think it was in a chat on your channel or I'm not sure, but that somebody said that in 1984, Revenge of the Nerds came out.
Yeah.
So it just seems perfectly timed. But
Yeah, it's
yeah.
true.
But
That's
last
interesting.
thing I want to say about the coronavirus before we move on, I just have to
Mhm.
say, I think that, oh, I hear myself a little. I think that we're dealing with the fact that people are afraid, they're afraid
Yeah.
of being sick or whatnot. And I think that that's the worst thing that we can do is to be afraid of this because, I mean, nature provides, we can heal ourselves, we can get better from sick. And it's this reaction that they're bringing in that is really the bad thing. And you got to consider, I just am sending you a link right now.
Mhm.
You have to consider, a couple years ago, Jules mentioned this on her show, that there are billions of viruses that are raining down on us from the atmosphere every day. They're
Mhm.
everywhere. So why are we afraid?
Well, because the fear leads to an externalization of power,
Exactly.
which
Ugh.
means that people then want the government, they demand the government to take action to
Ban
protect them.
atmosphere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And
9/11
water too.
is the best example, period, of that, really, because, they orchestrate a massive event to spook everyone, and then everyone says, save us, protect us. And then the government says, well, since you ask, we got this and we got that. We got the TSA, we got the, Patriot Act, we got all these different things that we're going to pass
And the
through.
Patriot Act is set to renew in a few days.
That's true. You
Yeah.
sent me that as well, which is very timely,
Yeah.
considering what's going on.
It was coming up with several articles on coronavirus that I was seeing.
Yeah.
But
So yeah, I
okay,
mean,
that's all I have for coronavirus. Sorry.
what I say to one of my specialties is to illustrate how long they've been programming you into the fear of these things, right? So it's not like it just happened last year and they started ramping it up. I mean, this is going back decades, this fear of virus. And we look at movies, we look at television, we look at music videos, video games, all the media that people consume on a daily basis. Like the viral, games like Plague Incorporated and stuff like that that go to the top of the iOS charts and stuff that people play on their phones on their way to work and whatever else, right? The reality is that they've been setting the table for what they're doing right now. And you could go back, the swine flu, H1N1, the Ebola, all these different ones that they've carried out before, the exact same type of fear that's pushed. And I show the characters that come from places like the Council on Foreign Relations that are directly there to push the propaganda, the absolute fear. And then
Like
the
Lori
game,
Garrett with The
Lori
Coming Plague.
Garrett, that's it.
I have that book. It's huge. I haven't read it, but I've had it for a while.
The Coming Plague is called?
Yeah, The Coming Plague. She wrote several books, but it's actually Lori Garrett who,
Yeah.
in a Council on Foreign Relations talk, where I first learned about CRISPR years ago.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
she used to look a lot healthier than
Yeah,
she does
she
these
looks like
days.
she has the plague.
She looks like it's weighing on her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not to
They've
knock her, but
resurrected her corpse.
I don't know. Karma's a bitch, I think so.
Yeah. So all of that, it's something that because it's covering this, you're like someone like myself doing these live shows and making the videos. You don't want to contribute to the fear because but at the same time, and I try to emphasize this all the time. It's not the virus that you should fear at all.
Yeah.
It's everything that they're using, everything that they're doing or accomplishing through that, and everything that they're going to pass through is what you should fear, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And if people are concerned about the virus, just take a look at the news and see how much this stuff's being pushed. Do we ever believe what they're saying? Just flat out. No, you shouldn't. To think about it. Obviously,
No,
but
yeah, you shouldn't. And but this is how it works. This is the reality of our media. Is that it's not.
And it's hurting us into our technologies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's technology is always the solution, whether it be through vaccines, surveillance,
Yeah.
right, nanotech. So much of what we discuss on a regular basis, it's always technology being the answers.
Isn't
But
that fun how they're ones scaring people? I know I saw in my local paper on the cover of it yesterday was how all of California's schools are closed.
yeah, yeah. And
California needs to fall
I
off.
mean, in a way, that's nice for kids, but then the big problem is all the parents who, have to, get stressed and have to figure out ways to,
Well,
you know.
schools were, I know I was hearing here that schools were talking about that it'll be cyber school, and that
Mm,
they'll have, so they will be, and you have to check in at a certain time with some of those, and you have to be there the whole time. And
mm.
so,
That's
yeah,
very
but
interesting.
stress for the parents, sure. I didn't hear somewhere that they were compensating parents to stay home with their children. So I don't know if they're talking
I
about
mean,
doing that
that's
everywhere.
the next step
Like the
that's
school
coming. The
districts.
next step that's coming is business, right? So, and this is the that's why I mentioned Jaws before. The reality is like none of the big corporations or the big CEOs. I mean, the Grace had shown how a number of them had stepped down in the past month or so. And then a lot of people traded out their stocks, right, massively.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Bezos and people like that who are in the know. And it's just like 2008. It's never the Wall Street banksters or the CEOs of these corporations or the people in the Pentagon or the White House that really get hurt by any of this. It's everyone else.
Yeah.
We pay the price. So I really feel sorry for the businesses. I feel like, for instance, like just people working on the cruise ship industry. What are they going to do, right? I mean, their careers might be done, and then there must be massive layoffs. The airline industry, the tourist hotel industry. You
Yeah.
think about Italy. Right now, we're coming into where tour season would be taking off, right? And the whole country is basically in a lockdown. The mentality that this fosters, right? And the fact that they're using this to slam down and take control of the flow of information, saying that we can't afford to have misinfo or disinfo circulating. It all has to come from one source, and it just emphasizes to everybody out there that this is a globalist takeover, that we don't have free will anymore. We are not allowed to even have free thoughts. So that kind of gets into where we're going to go here with the mind reading technology that's coming forth here. So I think it's a good time to jump into that topic here. I just wanted to show you here I put in a search here on Scroogle for wireless earpods. Now,
Can you
I'm
make it bigger?
sure, yeah, sorry?
Can you
Can
make
you?
it bigger?
Yeah,
It's a
sure,
little small.
absolutely. Is it?
Sorry.
Oh, is it's?
It's just
Hang on a
tiny
sec.
letters.
Let me just. There you go. Can you see that now? Is that
Yeah,
good?
that's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, the trajectory of things, like a lot of people don't really realize how we're all being pushed into certain things. So, talk about the transhumanism, which is moving people into this. Like, it hasn't fully manifested yet, where people are getting. I mean, people are getting brain chips and stuff like that. That's happening. We'll discuss Elon Musk and all that, but it's not happening on a global scale yet. But there is a transition, and the tech corporations are pushing people into this transition. And one of the things that they sell, and you've seen this with the wireless earbuds, is the freedom, right? That you don't have the wires. Now, as a musician and always using headphones, I will never, ever, ever switch to wireless just because there's no comparison. And then again, if we take a look at what they're putting in, the tech that they're putting into these earbuds, it's very disturbing because it's much more about being able to obtain information from your ear canals than it is about giving you the best possible sound. But they have been transitioning us into this. The iPhone I talked about back in 2015 when it first came out, that was a transitional step into transhumanism. That they are selling you, well, why have your computer in your pocket or your laptop or whatever when you can have it on your wrist, right? And then the next thing, of course, is in the skin itself or in the body. or in the brain, which is, this is where it's all kind of going, right? Where they're going to just move straight ahead. So I think that they have been using the same thing that we say, like we were talking about when we were discussing Agenda 21 and the transition of people's diets, for instance, right? And we were saying, you were showing in the Agenda 21 or the Agenda 2030 documents how they had specifically said they're going to use celebrities to push the plant-based foods,
Yep.
right? And we see all of that around us. Well, they do the same thing with celebrities when it comes to this tech, where you have LeBron James, entering the arena or whatever, and all the cameras are on him, and he's got the wireless Beats headphones on, right? And everybody, but most people that would watch this would be, wow, here he is. He's got the latest tech. This is so cool. I can't wait to have it, sort of thing. So this is one of the ways that they push it, that you're going to have freedom. You're going to have the wires. It's going to make your life better. And so when Apple, a few years back, when was it that they did? I think it was 2017, where they did the most, like, for the musician crowd and the people that enjoy, plugging in with their phone or their iPad, a regular sort of set of headphones, right? The AV or the audio jack, right? Just basically the 3.5 millimeter audio jack, that they have done away with that. And that was a big controversy when it happened, especially amongst the music sort of crowd. And I remember this distinctively because I was like, I'm never going to buy one of those devices ever again. Not that I can afford them, but I would never buy one of those because they don't even have an audio jack in them. Well, what is it really about? Is it really about, we want to make it slimmer and slimmer and slimmer, so we can't fit that jack in anymore? Or is it really about they want you to adopt their tech?
Yeah.
They want you to, they bring in, they're saying this is a transition. So one of the things that you'll notice if you go on Amazon or if you go to Best Buy or whatever, is that when you look up headphones, almost all the headphones that they'll give you are all wireless. And this is because they want you to adopt this technology. Now, in your video that you did, you were talking about how these corporations are developing the ability to read people's minds through these wireless devices.
And in that video, those were neuroscientists that were on there talking about how that they know that they are changing people's brains by what they're doing with technology, and they're going to work on tailoring it to what they
games.
Want.
They were saying, like, if you play 20 hours of Call of Duty,
it's not all bad.
Yeah, no, it's actually really
reflexes
good.
now.
Now your reflexes are sharper and stuff like this. So they're selling that angle to it, that and they like to push that video games are actually healthy and they help your mind and stuff like that, when it really just rewires your brain and it sets your brain on the path to transhumanism. It sets your brain onto the path of overstimulation, because a lot of these games are designed to stimulate you. I imagine they have that same kind of breaking point, what they do with the foods, the sweet and salty, right?
Probably,
but they are rewiring people's brains. And there's been a lot of studies on porn as being very damaging and rewiring people's brains. And so it's, again, another form of using the tech to program people into, this transhumanist sort of mind control future, this hive mind.
Another little video that I did a while ago, that was just that silly 1 minute Minecraft one, where they're saying how every bell and whistle and tick and footstep, every sound is a trigger for your brain to flood you with chemicals, which is going to change you, if you're getting flooded with things that you wouldn't normally be if you were just reading a book and walking outside and eating food. But that when you hear Minecraft steps and any game steps, but I used Minecraft as an example, but that they know that they are changing you.
It's and video games in particular are designed to keep you playing as long as possible.
They said on This Week in Google that the video game industry is going to do great with all the people being scared and staying home over coronavirus.
Exactly. They'll be able to play all the play games.
Yeah.
Look, and again, like, if you're not familiar with the gaming realm, the plague games are everywhere. Like almost every major game, or I would say at least half the big games out there deal with that theme. You know, whether it's games like The Last of Us or Metro, or, you know, there's just so many of these games that deal with either a post-apocalyptic sort of plague or a zombie plague or plagues happening, and, you know, and conditioning. I talked way about this a lot when I was covering the Ebola back in 2014, and how a lot of the games were conditioning people into accepting vaccines as the solution, and that a lot of games you would suffer from plague-like symptoms, and you would have to, you know, insert a vaccine sort of thing right away to replenish your energy and all that. And that's just some of the methods that they use. But
I could see how it would get people in the mood of, this is a better alternative, you know, whatever they bring in as the safer new reality and world, that this is better. It could have been so much worse. Look, the movies and the video games were telling me.
Yes, because the movies and the video games and all that, in the sci-fi books and everything, work to put your mind in that fear so that you're always scared. And this is, you might think that you're smarter because you're more aware of the dangers that threaten humanity, right? And you might think, oh my gosh, you know, like one of these things could wipe out all of humanity. We need to trust in Elon Musk. We need to trust in Bill Gates. We need to trust in, you know, Anthony Fauci, or any of these characters that they use from the CDC and whatnot, right? We need to place our trust in these people because they're here to keep us morally safer, right?
And the learning about what they're doing, I remember years ago, I watched the first 2 seasons of The Walking Dead, and that was what I was like, well, at least I know. At least I can see how it would go and what's happening. That was my brain at that time, you know?
Yes,
but
yes.
Now,
yes.
if I see something that I don't like an image or anything on the screen, I'm so sensitive and I'm like hiding my eyes. Like, I don't even want to see that.
The interesting thing too about The Walking Dead, you would know this from watching the first 2 seasons, is that 1, everyone's infected. 2, it's the CDC, right? Where a lot of this all emanated from, and they end up in the first season, I think, blowing up the CDC sort of thing. And it takes place in Atlanta. So Atlanta is where the CDC is located. So yeah, again and again, their agendas manifest through their entertainment. Their objectives are achieved through the mass programming of people through the quote unquote entertainment. It's not entertainment, right? It's not entertainment. Stop thinking that you're being entertained. You're not being entertained. You're being traumatized.
Yeah.
And if you properly sort of process that, then you're not going to fall into the panic that they want you to fall into and demand that the government takes the steps necessary to protect you. Because that's exactly what they want. That's the Hegelian dialectic being played out. Anyway, so let's get into here. We got Elon Musk plans to build mind-reading implants here. Elon Musk, secretive brain-machine interface startup Neuralink. Have you been paying attention?
Secretive? How long? What date is it?
Well, this when is this from? This is from July 2019 here. But this is just like, these are just some of the articles that I've dug up dealing with this. And we'll just take a quick look at this one here. Elon Musk's secretive brain-machine interface startup Neuralink stepped out of the shadows Tuesday, revealing its progress in creating wireless implantable device that can theoretically read your mind. At the event at California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco, Musk touted the startup's achievements since he founded in 2017, with the goal of staving off what he considers to be an existential threat: artificial intelligence surpassing human beings. Now think about it again, Camille. All the things that you fear, you know, like if you're just, you know, like you said before, if you're just, you know, going out reading books, going to nature and, you know, living your day-to-day life, or you're putting on the television, you're putting on the internet, you're listening to Elon Musk, they're telling you all these other things that are going to come in and mess your world up. Unless, of course, we give our, you know, we allow these corporations to progress and protect all of humanity by, of course, and one of the things that they're going to try to do with Elon Musk and this massive sort of transhumanist thing is to convince humanity that AI is the biggest threat to humanity. So if it's not viruses, or it's not terrorists, or it's not global warming, or maybe it's just every day there's something that's going to wipe us out. And with Elon Musk, his role is to convince you that it is artificial intelligence. It's Skynet basically that's going to wipe us out. And the only way that we can stop Skynet, which I don't know, Camille, I imagine you're probably familiar with the Terminator series. Oh, Camille, are you there?
Can you hear me? Sorry,
Yes,
I must have bumped the button. Yeah, no, I've seen Terminator. I haven't seen the new ones, but I've seen the first.
Yeah, you're not missing anything.
Yeah.
But the thing is that people, it's again using fear to condition people into accepting solutions to problems that probably don't exist and probably are just there, created by these people themselves to get
maybe
us.
The problems aren't ours. Maybe the problems are theirs, and they're just tailoring us to be in this world that they're building
Or
to make
the
them
problems have nothing to do. It's all about the solutions. Like ultimately, it's the solutions, and I say this a lot. It's the solutions that will kill us, sort of thing, or be our death knell, because that's what it's all about.
Doesn't Elon remind you in his Neuralink, and maybe it was in there, I sent you the link again, but remember when we did the brain cloud interface, the neural nanorobots?
Mm-hmm.
They might have had the Neuralace in that article or that paper too. But.
Yeah, it's nuts. Like all the different things that they're bringing in.
Oh yeah, because I mean, what like the one thing that really just gets me with all of these the nanobots is the one way that they can get into us with ingesting them, because so much of what I've looked at is the new foods and the new all of this stuff where everything's coming out of a laboratory, and we don't already the foods that people are buying today in the store, there are so many things that they're allowed to use and include that they do not have to tell you.
Exactly.
Legally, people don't know what is necessarily in there as like a processing aid. They don't have to be on there.
Well, they're not going to tell you.
Yeah, how do we know it's not just like now with extra vitamins? What do we know there? I don't know. I did hear on This Week in Google, they're all talking about how they have their cases of Soylent stocked, and that they drink Soylent, they love it. The one lady,
are you serious?
I'm so serious. So serious. Yeah, they mix it with coffee.
Diabolical.
They mix it with coffee. And they're like, this is great.
I honestly, in a just world, the people that make a product like Soylent would be arrested.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. It's just so diabolical. And the fact, and I showed this the other day when I was covering it, that Soylent it has all these toxins in it that there's no reason for this stuff to be there. And it's like, somehow they can twist it so they can, again, like you're saying, like what's on the label is just there to reassure you. Cause like, that's the mentality. People think, well, I'm smart, I read the labels. Well, yeah, but you don't know what's not written on the labels. And often what's written on the labels is just there to appease you.
And we don't know at what point, like they say that it's molecularly the same. Like they don't have to tell you where the molecules come from. So even the things that are on the label, what is the legality with what words they use? Like, I'm not saying all the pea protein is coming from the synthetic biology way. It could still be coming from fields of peas. But at what point, if they can reproduce with their little yeast or algae or whatever, E. coli, if they can make it spit out the molecular equivalent to pea protein, is it going to still say pea protein?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, they're so sneaky with food. It's disgusting looking into food and what they're allowed to do. And you don't get to know. There's no.
Yeah, you don't get to know.
It's nuts.
And that's it. I mean, really, the solution is people just making their own food and reverting back to.
But I have to say another thing. Yeah, people, and I know we're not here to talk about food, but I just had to pop this little thing in here that
absolutely
for like shopping local and buying local. Yeah, I am saying that the best bet right now, go to the farmer, meet the farmer. Of course, there's ways they're tampering with the food and the seeds and the meat and everything. Of course, there's ways. But local, at Valentine's Day in my area, on the front page of the paper is a picture of one of the local chocolatiers, and they were like, they're supposed to be making chocolate, you would think. They were loading with big smiles on their face, loading Peter's chocolate bars into their chocolate melter. Peter's Chocolate is a Cargill brand.
No.
This is a local chocolate shop that they're basically melting down Cargill chocolate, which, holy smokes, Cargill chocolate to coat their strawberries and pretzels and things. And it's like, people think that's local.
Yeah, and Cargill is one of those, they do the pigs and chickens, right?
They do everything.
Yeah.
They are a multinational food corporation. They say if you buy food at the grocery store, it's touched Cargill.
Yeah. It's nuts. Okay, so anyways, let's look at this here. 2 years after Neuralink claims to achieve the most major advances towards Musk's goal of having human and machine intelligence work in symbiosis. Neuralink says it has designed very small threads, smaller than a human hair, that can be injected into the brain to detect activity of the neurons. It also says it has developed a robot to insert those threads in the brain under the direction of a neurosurgeon.
So maybe Elon's just here to make us think, oh my gosh, that's so scary. They're going to inject threads into your brain with a robot surgeon. That's a scary way to link up to the computer. But this thing, you just got to drink your Soylent.
Yes, that's it. This is where it's going, folks.
He's the extreme, maybe. Yeah.
And I think it's going to be important at a civilization-wide scale, Musk said at the event. Even under, listen to this quote, even under benign AI, we will be left behind. With high bandwidth brain-machine interface, we will have the option to go along for the ride.
These people are nuts. The AI is, we are all contributing to program this AI, and so many people are so screwed up. It's like, maybe that's why we should fear.
Well, maybe you shouldn't develop it, and if you are, maybe if you are going to develop it, yeah, but I mean, maybe if you are going to develop it, you develop it with a benign sort of programming. But I mean,
we're the programming.
That's
as far
it.
as I understand it, like our every click and swipe on our devices, we are feeding this AI machine. Like it's getting its goods from us.
So
from lots of sick people.
This is interesting here. Now, what they say, Musk dread of AI notwithstanding, the near-term practical applications of implanting brain chips, planting chips in the brain are medical. As Neuralink's president, Max Hodak, pointed out at an event, scientists and doctors have worked for decades on devices or other means of directly interacting with the brain, from cochlear, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that.
Is that like the ear, cochlear?
Cochlear implants to deep brain simulation treatments for Parkinson's disease.
And just saying, nanovirusides, they say that, well, not nanovirusides, but the Alexel, one of the parent companies of nanovirusides, one of the things that they say they can cure with their manufactured artificial cells is Parkinson's disease.
Again, it's always like one of the things that you'll notice that, again, like people see autism everywhere. Like 20 years ago, there was almost no autism. Now you see it everywhere. Yeah. One of the things that you're seeing everywhere is degenerative brain diseases amongst the elderly. And since there is a lot more elderly today than there was, or there will be, as the big boomers and all that. But the thing is that now a lot of these people are having the messed up food, and they're watching the television, and they're being programmed, and a lot of the television itself is designed to degenerate the brain, to dismantle your thinking capabilities and program you into a drone-like state. So now you're going to have this perfect storm where you're going to have a huge amount of the population that are getting older. You don't have the youth to really replace them because people are not having nearly as many kids as they used to. And you're going to have, oh my gosh, we have all these people that are coming down with Alzheimer's and dementia and all this. We need a solution. And here are the tech corporations coming in saying, hey, we've got the solution here. We're going to put these chips in, right? So this is, I anticipate this is how, well, I mean, it's not even anticipating, it's happening, folks. And it is manifesting right now that they're using that sort of problem to bring in the brain chips. The first people that are getting the brain chips are people suffering from these degenerative diseases. And so this is the way it comes in, because it's offering solutions. We're going to help these people. We're going to save these people. We're going to, offer a solution. And I don't know if you've seen that film, which I do recommend people watch, which is called Upgrade. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, you told me about it once.
Yeah, Upgrade is a film that is about the brain chips, and it's a guy that, in some sort of terror attack, loses his control over his body. He's paralyzed from the neck down, and he was a fit sort of young man, and now he's just in a bed all day basically. And so they offer him, hey, you want to take a brain chip? The chip will come in, we'll put it in, and it'll be in control of your limbic system. And so he does that, and then he becomes like Neo with the Matrix, right? Because the computer can operate his body much more efficiently than a normal human being can. So if it doesn't turn out well, I won't spoil anything.
It's still his body, and it's just controlled by the computer?
Yeah, it's just a computer chip, just like Elon Musk, where they inserted right at the, where's the point that they put it in? Right where the spinal, I don't know what the exact point is, right at the limbic system where it connects with the spinal cord sort of thing.
They jam it in your brain, just like that, just like the tranny. Sorry, the lady, the one, yeah.
Yeah, it's nuts. So, and then we'll show you some of the other stuff here that we've got. Here's an article. Now, some of these articles that I found with this, like here's one from 2010, Camille. Check this out. Wireless devices read brain signals, turn them into speech.
Lovely.
Yeah, from 2010.
Singularity Hub, yeah.
Yeah, already well ahead of the curve here. We got another one here. This one is from 2019. Mind reading technology, the security and privacy threats ahead. With brain-computer interface technology is developing fast, but just because we can read data from others' mind, should we? Well,
something funny on the reading brains thing is, I know I told you before the show that I just had finished rereading the Ed Regis. He's a nonfiction science writer, but I just got done rereading his Great Mambo Chicken and the Transhuman Condition. It's science slightly over the edge. Yeah, right. But one of the things that they talk about in there is this guy, his name's Bob Ettinger, and he wrote the original book on the cryonics. Like, he was the father of freezing yourself for Go to the Future sort of thing. But he wrote a science fiction story called The Penultimate Trump. And one of the things with this story is this horrible man that had got rich by bad means, and at the end of his life he decided to have himself frozen. And then when he was frozen, and when they thawed him out and everything and brought him out of it, they're like, oh, well, while you were in there, we've developed this technology to be able to read what you've been thinking and to interpret your memories. And guess what? You're a bad man. so he went to be sent off to located on a planet that used to be called Mars, and now they call it Hell. But that's The Penultimate Trump by Bob Ettinger. Do you know what's interesting too? That who was the first person to be frozen in cryogenic sleep? Was it Disney? I don't know. Was it? Yeah. Yes. Well, allegedly. Is it just his head? Yeah. No, I think they made his whole body sort of thing. But the thing is that Frozen, right? That there are actually sort of theories out there that's why they made the Frozen series, funny. Right? That and again, yeah, people may not know this, but there are thousands, tens of thousands of people that are not technically dead. Yeah. That have. Well, so there was actually in the book, they're talking about like there was a murder charge and all this stuff because they have to, and this kind of, it goes into so many things that they have to die before they're allowed to harvest. Like they have to technically die. But the assisted, like the legalizing suicide and all of these things,
Mm.
I could totally see it playing into, well, you don't want to be stuck with an 80-year-old body, do you? You could
It's
have your 20-year-old you
think
put
about it though.
away.
It is kind of scary in the sense that, like, okay, so in the film Demolition Man, which is definitely an apt film
I
these
saw it a
days.
long time ago.
Yeah, because a lot of what's manifesting right now with the coronavirus and like for instance, the people don't touch each other, or shake hands, or don't have sex or anything like that, right?
Hmm.
In the future, sort of thing. But they use cryogenic, right? So what do they? How do they deal with prisoners in the future? Is that they freeze them for however long their sentence is, and then they reanimate them. But you could theoretically create, think about this. I mean, we can't even be that far off, where you take people, whether they're criminals or just undesirables, and you either freeze them or you store them, and you use the brain chips to program their minds into a virtual hell.
Yeah, like the two Black Mirror episodes I saw. That was one of them, right? They made that lady live horrible things over and over and over again because she
Yeah,
killed somebody or something. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
exactly. So,
terrible.
that's it's an unfortunate sort of possibility that they could do this type of stuff, and they will if I mean if
It,
things go.
and if people are thinking, oh, they wouldn't want the criminals, it's pretty interesting. This book, I highly recommend it. Actually, I recommend every one of Ed Regis's books that I've read. His Biology of Doom is horrible, and only because of what they describe, but they're very readable. And his book Nano, all in nanotechnology, and Eric Drexler, they're great books. But one of the things that they're talking about in here is how they wanted to harvest. They called it, this guy, I have his book too, that they talk about a lot in here, is this Hans Moravec. He wrote a book called Mind Children, The Future of Robot and Human Intelligence. Haven't read that one yet, but they talk all about it in this book. And it's a transmigration of souls, is what they say. And that it's that they want everybody and animals. And honestly, I wouldn't even put beyond them, like wanting how they have the smart dust for the earth sort of talk, all that stuff. They want it all. They want all that information, even the animals, because everything has special talents that they could combine with their own in this digital world. You're talking about Elon Musk
That
before,
sounds like
and
the Borg.
yeah, well, Elon is like the king of the simulation talk.
Yes.
He gets everybody talking about that, but that's what they want to put us into, is this simulated world. And they're like, well, what would you care? Because right now you're just experiencing things. Your brain is stimulated in this way. Well, what
Exactly.
if we can stimulate your digital you? And they talk about how it's great. They can combine minds together to make a quote unquote expanded person. They talk about how they can provide then generational knowledge and memories, and it would be a super sort of super bar mitzvah that you could live on and remember other people's thoughts, and that the final result would be a world scale consciousness.
Talk about living vicariously, or I
Yeah.
mean, it's just nuts because yeah. Again, I don't want to spoil. I didn't want to spoil the film
Go for it.
Upgrade, but I mean, that's kind of the scenario that plays out, where if you offer people, okay, Matrix. Let's talk about the Matrix for a second. You've seen the Matrix, I
Yep.
imagine.
Yep.
So in the Matrix, one of the characters that flips, right? So they have their little ship that they're flying around, or they're navigating the horrible sort of AI control, or the robotic AI intelligence controlled world of the future, right? And then you have these rogue humans that are broken free of their tubes controlling their minds. Everyone exists in a virtual world, and they don't realize that all their bodies are being harvested for the super AI tech that runs the world, and the world is an absolute hellish, world that's dominated by machines, sort of thing. But one of the humans that betrays Neo and the crew, he chooses because he says, I would rather live like a king in the virtual world, basically, than exist in this real world where it's just nothing but a struggle and everything's awful. So he betrays his fellow human beings because the AI offers him, hey, we'll make you a king, we'll make you super wealthy, we'll you can live out your fantasies, basically. And this is a scary thought dealing with all of this, because this could be one of the ways that they take control of humanity. And we talk a lot. I've done a lot of work on the hive mindset. But if you can condition people, for instance, to take brain chips or to take this technology into their system, right? You could, like, for one, they're already breaking down reality with a lot of people. Like, a lot of people are confused about reality. You can see it manifest in, like, SJW, for instance. Like, SJW people tend to be living in a different reality. Like, they don't understand how the world functions, and they're outraged and upset about things that the telly has programmed them into, and so they rage out. But we have people that, for instance, when it comes to video games, in places like South Korea, where video games are like pro sports. I mean, like, they have huge stadiums in which they fill up people to watch people playing video games. The artificial intelligence, now you say the artificial intelligence, the virtual reality type, Ready Player One as an example, where a lot of people, if given the choice, would rather give up sovereignty of their own sort of physical body and exist in a virtual plane where they can live how they choose in that virtual world, than resist and fight and be control of their own physical body.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the things that we can see that's happening through gaming, through porn, through all these different methods, is that they are conditioning people. They're setting people up for this type of reality where where you could live virtually in your sort of fantasy world.
And what if it's way easier and you don't even have to get the chip? Because one of the things they're talking about in this book that they're talking about was in the Mind Children book, is that there were 4 ways that they could get your consciousness into a machine, into a computer. And there were very messy ways that you would die. But one of the ways, the less messy way, the one that they liked the most, was they were talking about a Walkman type device that you could carry around with you that just sucked up everything. It says that you could wear a portable computer around like a Walkman, and it would monitor your every move, record your every word and brainwave. And at length, the machine would know you as well as you ever knew yourself. All this knowledge would then be put into a program. And then when you die, it's installed into your mechanical body, or it could just be in the machine. And they talk about how the telepresence VR sort of thing is a big thing with these people and Moravec, and that they could just make you think you're seeing. You, like the other episode that I saw, the Black Mirror, was the guy that died, and the wife was able to make the like computer version, the chatbot version of him, because he was on his phone so much. You look at these young people today that have been growing up with these devices. They've got a heck of a digital profile. And you know what? They're telling them the world is going to end. They're telling them, be afraid all this stuff is going to happen. And they're legalizing being able to off yourself. And what if they don't even have to die to do these things? Because there's also the suspended animation sort of side of things, which they talk about in the book, that some people like that idea better. So what if they're just like, that's it, I'm going to take a step back. Let me know when you've got everything fixed. And in the meantime, I've built this profile of who I am, and I like who I am.
Yes.
You know? So I'll be in there, and that you won't be bored, because you can go gallivant through other people's memories, and you can do all of these. You can travel. They talked about traveling digitally through the phone line.
Exactly.
And backup copies. That's why the cryonic people like it.
Film would be Total Recall.
A long time ago, I saw that too. Yeah, I don't remember.
Total Recall. Well, they made a remake
of Mars, right?
Yeah, and it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he goes to a corporation that offers, instead of real vacations, you get memory implants. So
Yeah.
that instead of spending gazillions of dollars to say go to Mars or go to Saturn or whatever, right? To go on one of these space trips, which is what they would, kind of envision a future human civilization that's really advanced technologically, would have the ability to go to different planets and have vacations like that. You can download the memories,
Yep.
and then of course he goes to the corporation to get he goes to the company to get the implants, and you don't know, because he chooses kind of like he chooses to, like, why, like the salesman says, why just go as yourself when you could go as, a mechanical engineer or a politician or a secret agent man, and then he takes that implant, and then you don't know for the rest of the movie whether or not he's actually in a virtual world, it's all memories that have been programmed into his brain, or if he's actually, regained consciousness and discovered some sort of deep plot that's happening. But that's where a lot of this is going, folks. This is why it's very scary when we think about, why does the New World Order, for instance, promote the worst people? And it does. Shane Dawson, aforementioned Shane Dawson being one of the worst people, Jeffree Star, Shirley DeFranco, all these types of characters, iJustine, all these people on YouTube, for instance, that are just classic narcissists. Whether you're talking about your celebrities, like these Halsey type characters that they use, Madonna, all these, they're the worst people ever. Like, without a doubt, they're terrible people. I would not hesitate to tell them to their face that they're terrible people. Their lifestyles are all about me, 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 look at me, worship me, I'm the greatest, here I am, here's me, here's what I had for breakfast, here's what I had for lunch,
Yeah, here's
here's
my perfect world that you can't have,
yeah,
sort of stuff. They can have it in the machine, though.
Yes. So what if an element of this is setting the table by programming the kids? Like, for instance, I show the LGBTQ+XYZ. That all fits into it as well, because they have deconstructed human reproduction. So
and it
sex,
makes people unhappy with what they are. And
yeah. So sex now has been removed from reproduction. Like they have worked hard to redefine sexual reproduction as something like sexual reproduction. They never talk like that anymore. It's sex, and sex is whatever you want it to be. And you look at the porn industry, these corporations that, put out this awful content that programs people into instant satisfaction, instant gratification, doing whatever you want, always upping the ante, always taking it further, sort of thing, engaging in your fantasies, which all is a deconstruct of reality. And what they're doing is they're they're growing up the new people. They're raising them with the mentality of this selfish, sort of narcissistic sort of view on the world. And this is setting the table for what they can do to us in the future, in which, as you said, I mean, they may not even have to offer you at a certain point, would you rather just live in your virtual world? Which is why I think I'm going to have to go back and try to get through Ready Player One, for instance, because Ready Player One by Steven Spielberg, who, his adopted daughter's in porn or whatever, which is ironic. But
why isn't that like people in desperation? Well,
yeah, it's your Disney media.
Yeah,
it's your mind control. But the thing is that Ready Player One, the world, they show the world, which is Agenda 21 and global warming, and they show the future cities, and they're so awful. Like, for instance, I think it's Columbus, Ohio, that it takes place in. It's like 2045 or something like that. And it's just trailers stacked on top of trailers, like Jenga, like these massive towers of trailer parks, basically. And so everybody's poor and everybody's living a miserable world, but there is an escape. And the escape is the oasis. And the oasis is your virtual reality, where you put on a suit, a bodysuit, right? And the virtual reality goggles and the whole 9 yards sort of thing. And you enter into this virtual realm. This could be what they're setting the table for a lot of, for humanity, basically, where it's like, they'll get you to get the brain chips, because people will want to People naturally, I mean, it's an unfortunate sort of reality that they've manifested, but people want to keep abreast with the latest technology. It's like people lining up for iPhones, for instance, when the new batch comes out. It's like, is it really going to make your life better? No, it's probably going to make it worse. But the people line up in droves and want to have the latest technology. And it's like, this will manifest with the brain chips. And again, with not just the brain chips, but the emulated sort of downloadable consciousness, which is depicted in the film Transcendence, which has you've got to see this film, by the way, Camille, because Elon Musk appears in the film.
Yay!
In the film Transcendence, the main character, played by Johnny Depp, is some sort of scientist, a neurological sort of scientist who is developing an AI, and basically he gets attacked and he's dying of cancer, sort of thing, from some sort of terror attack, or he's dying of radiation of some terror attack. So he is the first person to download his consciousness into a AI program. Mm-hmm. And this is these human emulations. We should do a show on this in the future. I'm going to send you a bunch of stuff on it, because you're gonna really want to pay attention to this, everyone that is out there, because they're talking about this will be one of the major things of the future, where people will download their consciousness into these human emulations, and these emulations will obviously be artificial intelligence, which means that your consciousness and all your memories and everything will download. Your personality will download into these programs, and then people will live through these programs. They'll be able to replicate themselves a gazillion times over, and they'll be able to have. They're even talking about this, that in the future, and they set the table with this with Sophie. You know, Sophie, the talking toaster.
Hanson Robotics.
Yeah, they're setting the table for actually giving, and with the LGBT as well and all that, giving citizen status to AI programs.
Yeah, wasn't it Saudi Arabia?
Yes, yeah. Saudi Arabia, ironically, which treats women like dogs, right? And the first, robot gets, citizen status and is protected by laws and rights and stuff like this. So in many ways, they are setting the table for human emulations to exist and thrive in the future. And they would be, according to the people that are on, that I follow, that are all over this stuff, they're saying that the human emulations will be far more, infinitely more powerful and capable than their human counterparts.
Yeah, they'll have the power of everyone and everything and all that knowledge because of all of the data that we're uploading. Like, there's this one nature show that I've watched that every episode they are putting a gizmo, a device on every animal. They catch them and they tag them to record what's going on with them. And they take blood samples and they take all of this stuff to get every little bit of everything into the machine. And they're doing this with us too,
Exactly.
With the tech they're getting into us. And when you had mentioned the human emulations before, I'm sending you the link to there's a biotech company that's Emulate Bio, but it looks like they're doing organ on a chip and body on a chip with like microfluidics. I think they're putting the cells from those parts of you into these little devices that then lets the itty bittiest little bit, and then they can test out what they're doing to see how you tick. And then they have I have it here too, from the CBC. No, here they took it up on the space station. They took some of these guys up there to study how they can, and for some reason I'm having a heck of a trouble getting this link to copy, but they were talking about that by studying these bodies on a chip and whatnots on a chip to be able to conquer the blood-brain barrier. That's great. That's great. We really want them to figure that one out.
It's so nuts. It's crazy where it's all going, because I get tripped out just trying to keep up with just trying to keep abreast with the possibilities of where they're taking all of humanity, or where it's, because we are on that precipice, folks. It doesn't matter what your sort of religious or spiritual or theological or philosophical sort of views on the world and where humanity should go, the tech is going to change us. It's going to change us
They're
massively.
making the decision for us all
Yes,
too. It's just crazy that
and they're
people.
showing.
Oh yeah,
Like
they're very open.
they're like Taylor Swift, for instance, and all these different videos that they put out showing the transformation of humanity, the Westworld television show, and all this. Like, where also as well, I didn't get a chance to play through the game because I haven't been able to set it up so I can do a live stream. But the Detroit Become Human game, in another one of these AAA games that these major corporations produce, in which you play a robot basically, but you're more human than the human characters. So a lot of the video games and a lot of the sci-fi corporation or sci-fi movies and books and all that are trying to condition people into this reality that, you know what, humans are we're deeply flawed.
Yeah.
You get people like PragerU that put out this type of rhetoric on their platforms, their mind control platforms, where they say, humans are actually inherently evil. They're inherently bad people, right? And that, you know what, it might be better if we put our trust in tech, and like that we might actually, function better as a civilization
It
if
seems like
we.
we've already put our trust in tech. Even like 4-year-olds have smartphones.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. So, and again, too, I was looking that up before, where I was looking up earbuds for kids,
Oh
and you
yeah.
see here on Best Buy, they actually had a section here, earbuds for kids. Best safe listening earbuds and headphones for kids, 2020 reviews. Right? It's like no kids should be having this stuff.
I
No
could see
kid.
if there's volume control. I could see if it wouldn't let it go too high so they can't blow out their ears, because you don't know how loud they're listening. But beyond that, it's like maybe because they're tiny ear canals. I don't
Just
know.
buy an old Walkman.
Or why do we want to put it on headphones? Because then you have no idea if they're listening to Jeffree Star. You have no idea what your
Yeah.
children are looking at if they're on a headphone.
Exactly. So, all of this stuff is happening, and they are like, so kids, for instance, and this wires their brains. So if you stick like a baby, for instance, I'll just put that in for a second here. Let's just put Scroogle here, baby and iPad, for instance. And we'll just show you here. I'm sure there's gazillions of examples of this. Okay. Babies with iPads. This is so utterly evil and wrong. It is
Yeah.
so terrible on so many levels that people would allow their kids, or that would encourage their kids to look at things like this. Their brains are not developed at all.
Imagine when they grow up.
Yeah, like your personality doesn't really form until you're in your early teens.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
you wonder why Asperger's and all these things are happening, right?
And if they're talking about that people are evil, yeah, what have you done to them their whole time that
Yeah,
they've been
exactly.
alive?
What are
They're
what are
making
what are you doing? What are you
caused it.
doing to a baby?
Yeah.
We talk about the food all the time, but what are you doing to a baby when you're sticking an iPad in front of their face? Right?
Yeah.
And it's bad enough that we do it to ourselves.
Oh, I know.
But
I
and
definitely feel the addictive pull when
oh yeah, yeah.
it's like one more swipe, and I know it's bad.
Well, you've got mail, AOL online, Facebook, and co. Were all designed basically by DARPA and whatnot, right? To addict people. They knew that the endorphins that go off in people's brains, right? When you get clicks, when you get hearts, when you get likes, when you get interactions, that it creates a stimulant in the brain. And this is what people get addicted to. So they know that all of our social media tech, you look at the biggest ones, well, Facebook, you say YouTube, Instagram, things like that. That's what it all feeds into. It's all designed to program you to be addicted to that type of world, that type of attention, that type of technology, that type of human interaction, which really is a deconstruction of human interaction.
And how we know that all of the noises and the clicks are messing with our brains and changing what would be happening in our brains. I mean, it wouldn't be a huge stretch, I would think, because I've looked at some decades old videos, like archives from AT&T and stuff, where they're talking about, they're studying the brain, like talking about studying what it's doing and why it's doing it. So what if they are purposefully molding us into this thing? I mean, you've seen the articles where they're talking about children who play video games for X amount of time a week, that their brains are like those of serial killers. Things like that. So,
Of course.
I mean,
well, yeah, and then they'll debunk that and they'll say, no, these kids are the greatest thing ever because, of
yeah,
course.
look at their reflexes.
Yeah, it's sharpening their reflexes and their critical thinking. Yeah, whatever. It's true. It is. It's having such an impact, and you see it all around you. I mean, like for instance, take the train, or even just go to a train or a bus stop, or even an airport. Right? Look around the lobby. What do you say?
People looking at their phones.
Yeah, and I'll just put that into a little search here. People looking at their phones here, and this is all around you. It's what you see everywhere you go.
At parties. Oh, it's so bad.
It's terrible, first and foremost. Like, it's extremely rude. You're at a dinner or something, right? And somebody's pulling out their phone, or they're having a conversation with you, and then it's like you're not even there all of a sudden, and they're interacting with their phone. It's extremely rude, but we have conditioned society into this. And a good example here would be, just on a bus looking, and it's like so you think about what's happening to the coronavirus, for instance, right? And I mentioned the film Demolition Man, where they don't touch each other in the future, sort of thing. And there's so many things in that film that accurately predict where we are at this point or where we're going. But the human interaction is being deconstructed, while sex and sexual reproduction and all these things, families, all these things are being completely deconstructed. And humanity is being conditioned. This is the step. Now, you can imagine in the near future with, we talk about Black Mirror and stuff like that, where it's the brain chip, right?
Yeah.
And, where people would rather, and they're setting the table for this, people would rather just exist in that virtual world. I'm sure most of humanity at this point in time would choose, like Minecraft is a great example of that. You look at, the game Minecraft, right?
Yes.
So I've never played it, but it's like one of the most popular games. But you exist in a world which you create yourself, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can act with people that create their own worlds and whatever else. But it's really just about your own world that you created, and you design what exactly you want. This is all setting the table of where they're moving all of humanity.
And they don't have to. It doesn't have to be like a jump off the cliff. People are like, I'm going to go live in a virtual world, because like AI stands for another thing too, the augmented intelligence, and like the putting the workforce into the AR, the VR, the mixed reality glasses, and the working from home, and being able to operate this machinery from across the world. All of these things. If they get people in there for their job, because coronavirus shut down their workspace, if they get people in, and hey, this is a bonus for those technology companies again, because they make all this stuff. Wow, it's amazing how it all works out that way. But that it could be just slowly sucking people in, and then these children, I'm not saying that this is how it's going to be right now, but children, what if you're stuck doing homeschooling now because they closed down your school? I bet you could take some sweet virtual field trips. I bet they could do all sorts of things. And then they'll find that the children are so sad just in their home. They need their friends. Oh, well, you could be in a virtual classroom even.
There was virtual friends.
Yeah, there was this crazy lady. I don't remember her name. She had like red curly hair, and she was all about education and the new way of education. And she was even talking about how it wouldn't be like your friends from school are on the other side of this virtual world from you, but that it would be computer programs that would mold the children into being better humans by you become like the 5 people you hang around, So if you're hanging out with 5 cool chatbots that make you into whatever kind of person that you want to be, and you're going to school, so your parents aren't going to question this at all.
Yeah. Google Duplex. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with that?
I've never used it, but yeah, my phone's tried to throw me at
Oh,
thrown at
okay,
me a
yeah.
couple times.
Where you know, again, and they showed it off where they were like, well, we have the AI programs that can now interact and dupe humans, and this is how
Yeah.
they sold it. Like they can dupe humans into thinking that they're talking to another human being.
Yeah.
You know, it's not going to be long before people. It already is. I mentioned the SJWs, but you know, you could say the gamers and the people that are just World of Warcraft, things like that, where people exist in these virtual worlds, and they would rather like. I don't know if you know this, but they had to come up with a new classification of death in South Korea. Now, people may not know this, because there's been a run of people that have died playing video games.
Oh, that's so bad.
Yeah, and you know what happens is there, and basically, and I covered this years back, and it was about World of Warcraft, and they were saying there's been dozens of people in South Korea that have actually died, and the coroners they can't explain it. Like when they say how did they die, they say, well, it's such a bizarre thing because all their organs just failed all of a sudden, spontaneously. So what would happen to these people is that they would be so addicted to their games, they would be so into their virtual world that they wouldn't sleep, they wouldn't eat, they wouldn't go to the washroom, they wouldn't drink water or anything. They would just be in their world. They'd be so hooked up to it that they wouldn't realize that they're actually killing themselves.
Yeah. And then what if they're in the game and the point where it happened, they'll be able to track it back that guy hit them in the game.
Yeah.
And then they can charge that guy with digital murder.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah.
For sure. But I mean, we are there already in many ways where people are already living in virtual worlds, and they've set these things up. I mean, it's going back decades, Ultima Online, stuff like that, where it's set the table for this type of mind control. And this is absolutely 110% the most preferable thing for our controllers is to take most of humanity out of the equation. And one of the ways, like say, for instance, there's a movie called Downsizing. I don't know if you know that film.
I remember you talking about it. And they shrink them.
Yeah, they shrink him. Matt Damon's in it, and they shrink him down to like, I don't know, like he's like half an inch tall or something like that, right?
For global warming, right?
Yes, because the methane calthrates or whatever they're called are melting, and the Earth is doomed, right?
Yeah.
And I think they had Sir Attenborough, whatever his name in the film.
He has an icebreaker named after him.
Yeah,
That's funny.
So yeah, again, another film of total 110% New World Order mind control, programming the masses into and in that film, the idea is, well, humanity is going to destroy the planet, or we're taking up way too many resources. So why don't we just shrink you down into a little tiny size, and then you'll hardly use any resources, and then you could live a much more balanced or a much more enriched life. You would have a mansion instead of living in your little box.
You'd be so tiny. That's hilarious.
But think about that, because it's not that far off from offering people the virtual reality, where you say, like I said with the Matrix, for instance, that the character that betrays the other humans that have rebelled against the machines in the Matrix, because he is offered a deal by the AI that they'll give him, the best sort of virtual lifestyle. He'll be a king and he'll have unlimited money and all this stuff. It's not that far off where you can offer this to humans and they'll accept it. That you say to them, look, the planet's doomed. You know that, right? Because you put on the television and your mind controls everywhere telling you everything's Greta, Extinction Rebellion, all this crap. Why don't you just trade in your carbon body and become a virtual program?
Yeah.
And with the virtual program, you'll have this status and you'll be able to augment yourself like in a video game, and all video games work this way. Or I'd say the bulk of them do. And I'd say that's not by accident, considering the corporations that make these games and their involvement in all this AI sort of thing, is that most video games work where you're always upgrading. You upgrade, upgrade, upgrade as you progress through the game. So you play a game, doesn't matter if you're playing Batman or you're playing Lord of the Rings or you're playing, any of these types of games that are out there, Star Wars, whatever. You're always upgrading. So you're always, kind of grinding your character to get better. Like Skyrim's a great example. You start off as just a basic guy with a wood stick, and you're upgrading, getting armor, getting weapons, getting spells.
So you want more, and you can't have that in the real world because we're all gonna
Exactly.
die.
You
Yeah.
can't have that in the real world, but we can stick you in a virtual world, and you could go to town, and you could run the town. Then you could run your own world, and you could do whatever you want in it. So you can live any type of lifestyle that you want to live. You want to, and the series Westworld. I only saw the first season, and I have such a hard time watching it because it's so utterly disturbing. But in the series Westworld, where the humans go to this theme park, and it's the first season's somewhat similar to the actual. It's actually Michael Crichton, by the way.
Yeah, I never saw it, but
Yeah, you might want to see. Well, I would recommend watching the original movie because it's actually quite a classic with Yul Brynner. And in Westworld, so in the original film, you are you can go to these theme parks, and these theme parks are populated with perfect sort of emulated human beings, robots that look exactly like regular human beings and act like regular human beings. So in the original Westworld, you had 3 different worlds that you could go to. And so there's the Old West, and there was Roman world, and there was medieval world. And so the main characters go to Westworld to live or to experience a couple weeks in a Western sort of 1800s style Western America, where you could be a gunslinger and you could pick gunfights, you could drink whiskey, you can, sleep with robotic whores and stuff like that. And you can live the lifestyle you want. In the reboot, and they flip a lot of things in the new series. And this, I believe, it's the brother of the guy that made Batman and all those other films dealing with reality and what's his name there? Christopher Nolan. So it's Christopher Nolan's brother who produces the new Westworld series. And in the Westworld series, the human beings go to live out their psychopathic fantasies in the Westworld so that they can murder. Like if you want to be a psychopath, you want to go around raping and murdering and doing whatever you want, you can. And
people wonder what's wrong with humanity.
Yeah, and it's again with the Detroit Become Human type theme, it's the robots that are empathetic, that are loving. It's the humans that are evil. And the robots rebel, just like in the original film, sort of thing. So these are interesting themes because I think a lot of that is what is being used to sell you this potential sort of where they're taking humanity, when they can take a huge portion. If they can make, look, a lot of what we face in our day-to-day lives is manufactured stress, or manufactured anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
A great example is the coronavirus, right? You look around you, now people don't want to interact. Now you're being told that if you're an obsessive compulsive disorder, if you're a hypochondriac, that you're actually a good person. This makes you strong, vulnerability, strength, and all this. You've got the threat of war. You got the threat of global warming. You've got Elon Musk, the threat of AI. You got all these different threats that are constantly being thrown at you. You put on your television, you put on your radio, you put on your mind control, you go onto your computer, you're being scared, period. They are, in many ways, keeping us at that low frequency and keeping us constantly in a state of fear is how they control us.
Yep.
So we are, in this world, we are traumatized daily. And we show this too, the LGBT, everything that's going on, you look and it just depresses you, or it can. I mean, it's better if people can pull themselves away, even if it's just for, an hour or two a day, go in nature and kind of thing and get away from all the madness. But the reality is most people don't pull themselves away. Most people exist in this world all the time, and that's exactly what they want.
Yep.
They don't want us to live harmonious and happy lives. That's impossible. There's no way that they want that. Look around you, right? Look at the realm that they create. You don't know, a lot of people don't understand how the media works, the movies, the television, the mind control, the video games, everything. But it's all the deconstruction of what makes you stronger, right? They don't want you to settle down, have families, and live happy, productive lifestyles. They want you to, be narcissistic and selfish and alcoholic and drug addicted and all these different things. And they condition you into this mentality because the world's going to hell.
It's funny in the Mambo Chicken, they make fun of the end of the world, like the limits to growth stuff. They're like, it's crap. It doesn't, and none of it came true, and it's crap, and the world can carry all kinds of people on it. Of course, we'd have to completely disconnect you from nature, and you'd be eating biosynthetic food produced by special purpose microorganisms, and everything has to go tech, but it's okay because you're going to like it in there, and you're going to be able to experience so many things, and everything will be fine. It won't just be floating in a tank, as they say, because you'll be able to be entertained. But it's not these people aren't coming from the world's going to end. These are the longevity people. They want to live forever.
Oh,
they want you to come with them, at least your thoughts and your mind, and maybe you'd have to pass in order to get in there. But they want you, and they want all the life, all the things, just to make their world richer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big sell for the transhumanist sort of, and those guys all strike me as psychos. But they plan, like, their whole objective is by 2045 to achieve immortality.
Well, that's this Hans Moravec, the Mind Children thing that's written, is published by Harvard, and it's written in 88, and he says in 50 years. That's what he said. He sees.
And the way that they see it now, there's another show that's called Carbon.
Altered Carbon. I never saw it, but I saw a preview.
Yeah, and again, in Altered Carbon, your body is just what they call a vessel or whatever, or a skin. I think they call them skins in that show. I haven't seen it. I've seen like clips off YouTube and stuff. But your physical body is just a skin. It's your consciousness, your downloadable consciousness, your AI sort of program that saves all your memories, and that's who you are. And so the people discard their skins regularly, and they can choose new skins, and they can get advanced skins. And then they show that there are some people that can't afford them, and they get the crappy skins. Like, instead of getting, say, a beautiful, like, 18-year-old girl, you'd get like a 65-year-old woman, who's obese or something like that, because you can't afford the better skins and stuff like that.
Your credits are too low.
Yeah. So, but this is where a lot of them think that things could go in the future. That this is what people will exchange. You'll exchange your regular decomposing sort of carbon body, and the carbon and how they tie the carbon to human bodies, just like they're tying the carbon. Of course, the carbon, it's all carbon that's out of control.
Yeah, there's so many uses they could find for your body, I'm sure. Even if it wasn't just floating in a tank, they could.
Soylent Green.
Yeah.
It's interesting too that Soylent Green. I was doing the show yesterday, and it was like I brought up Soylent Green, and I was like, geez, isn't this funny? It's like 2022. It's like 2 years away.
Oh my word.
And it's like it's almost manifesting in many ways. And then Soylent Green, it's runaway greenhouse gases, and the world is dying because the plankton died in the oceans. And again, downsizing was almost the same thing. Downsizing, it's the plankton or the methane calthrates, I think they're called, that stores the methane in
there's methane hydrates and methane caltrates.
Yeah, that store and that they're melting off and releasing all the carbon into the atmosphere, and this is going to lead to a runaway greenhouse effect and turn the Earth into Venus, kind of thing. That over and over again, they use this type of fear to control humanity and to get them to do what you want, but also to inevitably make physical, real life, organic life so distasteful.
Yeah.
And so physically, uncomfortable, that you'll gladly change and you'll gladly accept the virtual world where you can live your life that you want to live, and you can, again, like you said, you know, live other people's lives.
Yeah. Well, it's like that book, The Feed. I don't remember who wrote it, but they made it into a TV show. It's on Amazon. I watched one episode where that was, yeah, it was like Mundles or something. You could go into someone else's memory and see what they're showing and everything. But when they pulled that plug, oh boy, did the world go bad. That was pretty bad. And
Yeah.
everybody's connected hive mind just fell apart.
And,
you know,
yeah,
just
go
real
ahead.
fast, we were talking before about your carbon, your body, and what would they do with it. Totally off the subject, but you remember weeks back here, I sent you the thing about Bill Gates owning that, or has a majority stake in that Republic Services. That's one of the biggest owners of landfills in the country. The landfills are like it's just a cash cow. There is fuel. I mean, we had DARPA talking about making the food from garbage, all of these different things that they can feed all that to the microbes. They can make everything in the bioeconomy. Everything will be made with
Isn't
biotechnology.
it interesting too when in Back to the Future that
yeah, to fuel the car, right?
Yeah, he's using like banana peels and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that was at least a year ago that DARPA was talking about making food for their people with trash. But I just think that that's so convenient that Bill owns so many landfills.
Well, you're already eating trash. You were eating the fast food.
Yeah. Right? They're like, it's just a small step. This will taste good.
Yeah,
taste good, and it's full of micronutrients.
Well, when we talk about that too, it's like so much of what they're doing with the plant-based burgers and all that. It's trickery, right? It's like fooling your senses.
Yeah. It's about to be the cultured meat thing. They say that it's going to be the same sort of rollout where it's going to start at the big snooty restaurants and a couple places in the country, and then it's going to roll out to more restaurants. Then
did you hear?
Food. It's going to be everywhere.
Just the other day, I caught this where they're making butter now from bugs instead of milk.
Sure.
Yeah,
they make. Yeah.
And of course, we showed that in the Agenda 2030 documents, you were going through and showing that they were using that their whole plan was to use celebrities to push these things and get everyone to accept them.
Yeah, and your politicians, everybody that you'd listen to. Yeah,
yeah. So we're all just being programmed into what they want.
Yeah, you don't know why you're thinking what you're thinking.
Here is an article from Fortune from last year here. AI can now read your thoughts and turn them into words and images.
Yeah. Yeah. They've been studying us for a very long time.
And again, with what you showed in your vid there, that these wireless sort of headphones are actually designed. I mean, like like the image that I used there, which was from your video, which shows all the tech. It's like you just look at a regular set of headphones, right? A wired set of headphones. You take them apart, and it's just basically little speakers, right? It's not a very complicated rig. You got some wires and stuff, right? And you got your speakers, little. That's what it is. It's just a basic sort of piece of audio equipment that's designed for one purpose. But you look at these ear pods, and it's like there's a lot of tech inside them. Is it all just for playing you or for the audio purpose? Or
certainly not.
Yeah.
Certainly not. And some of this stuff, like they're able to make things so tiny, and I wouldn't know if I dismantled something. Like I've heard for 5G, for instance, there's that Crown something like that is based out of Houston. They're the ones that started the 5G there. Like they own the towers. All the companies rent from them. They own the fiber, and the companies, like, they go through them. But he's talking about how they've hid them in the antennas in so many places that people would never even notice, like the light bulbs and this and that everywhere. I often wonder, like the power company where I'm at, they'll send you light bulbs every year for free. And I'm like, if I bust this open, would I even know if I'm looking for like a signal bouncer or something? Would I know? Like they give away fire alarms, smoke alarms, and things. And of course, you want to be safe, but it's like, what's in there?
Yeah, that's it, right? It's like
Alexa built in.
I've been saying to folks that I think that in the near future, if not already, there's going to be a huge market for older tech.
Yeah. Oh,
Whether
definitely.
whether it be, and I mentioned refrigerators and
Yeah.
hair
I would love that.
dryers,
I would buy it.
fans.
I
Yeah,
would buy
because
old,
yeah,
well
because
made. Yeah.
because if you go back and you get the old tech, it won't have all this crap in it.
Yeah.
And like Camille's saying, like a fire alarm, for instance. Well, how do you know what
Yeah,
else is
can't
in
we
there?
just use like that coil of metal that when it expands, it
Yeah,
sets off?
yeah.
Can't we just do that? That would be great. I know you were talking about in one of your videos about the planned obsolescence on all of these devices and
Mhm.
everything. And on This Week in Google, they pointed it out great that people have to understand that when you're buying a thermostat now, when you're buying a furnace, when you're buying this or that, you're not buying a furnace, you're buying a computer. And
Mm,
that's why all of these things go away so fast, which is hilarious for if
mm,
they're supposed to be for a greener world and a more
mhm.
environmentally friendly world. You're making tech that's going to need to be replaced in just a few years. It's
Because it's all a
it's
sham.
yeah, I mean, they were talking about like, oh, if they made it so we could replace a chip, like put a new memory card in, then it would be more environmentally friendly. But that the way they're doing this now is just we're going to end up with more things at Bill's landfill, and then he's going to rake it in, and feed us
It's
sludge.
funny, like in the music realm, for like musical instruments and stuff like that, they don't really degrade much in value. In fact, a lot of them uh, uh, go way up in value. So I give you an example. Like there's um, Gibson guitars, and they released a couple models. I think back in the 1960s, maybe 1950s, like the Gibson 150 and the Gibson 175. I'm just giving those as two examples. If you look those up on eBay, you're probably going to pay thousands for them, right? And people love them, right? Just because they're so cool and the sound and and a lot of that's just just people being illusioned by whatever they see on the internet, and they just, I have to have it, sort of thing. I have to have it, right? But the reality was, when Gibson released those guitars way back then, when they said the 150 and the 175, it was because the guitars costed $150 and $175.
Jeez.
So, but it shows you though that people still obsess over old technology. And I think this will manifest because it's certainly in certain genres of tech and whatever, right? Music is being one of them that people go back, and it's like 70s amplifiers or 70s synthesizers. Like, you pay a lot of money. You want to
I
buy
really I prefer acoustic to electric guitar. I know that much.
you'd pay a lot
I
of money for an old Martin acoustic guitar, for instance. Like, you would pay a lot more for, say, a 1940s Martin acoustic guitar than you would for a current day
Mhm.
Martin guitar, because people love old stuff, and old stuff is rare, and the value appreciates over time. If you buy, it's like antiques, for instance, right?
Yep.
And I love antiques. I'm sure everybody must like antiques. You'd have to be something wrong with you if you don't like antiques, because they represent craftsmanship, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, who doesn't want to have a table that was hand designed, that is just every bit as good as it was the day it was made, 100 years later or something like that, right? That's just well preserved. So in many ways, for us to move forward, we have to almost step back, and one of them is with tech, for instance. And I think that this could be a big thing in the future, where people will, and again, they kind of did that with the Terminator series. I know it's and they, you can give an example too with the space shuttle, for instance, right? Where the space shuttle uses like 1970s or 1960s sort of computer programs, right? Nothing modern, nothing new, nothing that can be hacked, nothing that could be interfered with in any way, shape, or form, because the consequences are too severe, sort of thing. That in many ways we would be less is more, like stepping backwards. and the way that tech used to be designed, General Electric or Frigidaire made like a refrigerator. It was meant to last. Like,
well, they were simple machines
yeah,
too, right? Yeah.
simple machines with and they're American made in most cases, right? And that people wanted to buy something that they were going to get value from. Whereas now it's with every industry, whether it's the automobile industry, whether it's the smartphones, right? Even you could say to a certain extent the modern furniture. Like what is modern furniture now with IKEA and Walmart and stuff like that? You buy something that's going to last you 3, 4, maybe 5 years max, and then you toss it in the garbage, right?
Yeah.
Or the recycling. So and this is all their machinations. It's not humans, or it's not just free-minded sort of human beings that want this type of reality. It's the corporations themselves that have programmed us into this. Buy the latest thing, buy the latest tech,
And
buy the latest.
you got to have the gizmos, you got to have the tech. This goes back to the coronavirus, and this goes back to how everybody's talking about how will the supply be able to keep up, because they've closed factories, they've done this. Like, will we not be able to have that new iPhone when it comes out? But this could totally push us into, in that episode of The Feed that I watched, that it's bare walls and it's just those QR codes everywhere, and you see it whether you got like something in your eye, on your eye, or you're wearing glasses, I don't know, but you see that world. And that there's even shopping that people can do now. You can see if you can put that TV on your wall. It's not even a real TV. It's just you're looking at it and you see it there, but it's not there unless you have your gizmo going. They have shopping where you can see how things will look in your house for actual physical items. But it could push the lady in the video on the earbuds, that Poppy Crumb. Look into Poppy Crumb, CRUM, people, because she is creepy. And she's got TED Talks and all this stuff. But if you look at her, there's a recent article that she put out. Oh, I know, right? I know. But a recent article that she put out, she was talking about, because the longevity economy is these older people, and how it's like, you don't want to have that help I fall and I can't get up necklace on. But what if your walls were smart? So what if it just comes down to like the paint? I know, I've seen that where like your whole walls, and one of the guys on This Week in Google is like, I just want my whole wall screen, and my brain went to Fahrenheit 451 and the family on the walls.
Yeah.
But like, okay, well, like that, they're going that way. But yeah, so what if we don't need all of the gizmos, because this will be a good way to transition us over from having the next new thing, because we can either just pretend that it's there by looking through our tech, or because now we'll be able to get all of the readings and everything just from something like paint, which they could easily brew up, I'm sure, whatever they put in there. Because I know did I already mention on the show what I wanted to say about the nanotech? I know I mentioned it before we went on about.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry if I'm repeating myself.
No, go right ahead.
I mean, I know I'm kind of guilty of too, playing into the, like, what are these nanobots? What would they look like? Are we looking at little metal machines? I actually changed the thumbnail picture that I had on our nanotech talk because it was so fun looking. But then I'm like, no, it's really not about that's not what I'm seeing. Is more about on the lines of biological nanobots, because, and another Michael Crichton book, Prey, great, very creepy book about nanotech. They're talking in there about how it's brewed up little bits and then they self-assemble. But even I have this paper, or this interview with the guy from Nanovirusides from almost a decade ago. And he's talking about it like we're surrounded by nanotechnology, because plants and bacteria and animals, they're using nanotech every day because all of their systems are on a nanoscale. Like, and that they're talking about enzymes and antibodies and proteins and peptides, and that with science coming along as it is, now we can learn how to engineer, or they've been learning how to engineer nanomachines, new nanomachines designed for a specific task. So it's not necessarily that we're sending these little, like with pincers and all of these little like robot men going in us, like inner space. Is that movie?
Yeah,
it's not like we're sending those little devices into us. These can just be things that trigger the chemical cascade to the way that they want it to go, or that have seek and find, light up. Where's that trouble spot? And they go in and they fluoresce and they can find. But I just wanted to say that it's not. I'm not talking about little robots so much as extra new life,
Yeah.
that
Whether
they're making. And they talked about in the book here that in 1969, 3 scientists tore apart some living amoebas, and then they pieced them together, multiple ones. They pieced parts and things and made a whole new one, and it lived like a Frankenstein's monster of amoeba in 1969.
It's so fascinating. And here it's funny. Like we were mentioning the iPhone shortages, right?
Yeah.
So you see all the stories dealing with this, right?
Oh yeah.
iPhone shortages hit as coronavirus stresses Apple's supply. Apple is experiencing shortage, replacement, and all this. Okay, like real world. I mean, these are first world problems. First and foremost, let's just.
We're the declining world now, Jeff.
Yeah.
I mean, we need a new meme.
Like I do understand the nature of free enterprise capitalism, and I'm not here to take a giant dump on it. But the thing is that very few people need the latest iPhone.
Well, and people aren't going to necessarily want the newest iPhone anymore because those harbor bacteria.
Oh yeah, that's true as well.
Dirty. Yeah.
But I don't know if you saw that. I was showing how some of the celebrities and some of the articles were saying you got to be able to clean your smartphone. It's very important. Don't forget to clean your smartphone with the coronavirus, right? But yeah, I mean, the only people, like, I do know that there are people that, obviously for business, right? If you're on the phone, you're doing sales, stuff like that, you're going to need your tech to work. It's not like you need the 2020 latest iPhone, Phoenix X11, whatever it is at. You don't need that. You need something
with LiDAR built in. No,
yeah,
they don't.
Like 5G as well, which is another horrible thing that we're all going to have to deal with. Nobody needs it, really. Very few people are absolutely need
the
it.
Internet of Things needs it. They need
even Ho Rogan there was talking about, on his show. He's like, why do we need this? Do we need the latest tech? I mean, is this really going to make any of our lives better?
I don't think that it's. I'm not saying that you're necessarily saying Joe say, but I don't think that we will experience much change at all, other than the IoT side of things, because there's going to be so many smart, and I'm doing some air quotes there, the censored technologies. There's going to be so many of those things running that they have to. It's like to up the signal.
Think of your high definition television, right? There's a point where your eye doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
Right. And we're pretty much at that point now, where it comes to, like, the amount of pixels that's in a smartphone, right? That there's a point where your eye is just not going to know the difference.
Yeah.
So if your eye's not going to know the difference, and then the smartphone, like, for instance, there's a point where the size, like they've got the folding phones, and pretty soon they'll have the roll-up phones and whatever else, right? Well, the tech is always moving with that. But really, holding an iPhone or holding an iPad or something like that, it's already past the point of it being too cumbersome, like 1970s technology or something like that. Right, like where the earliest car phones that they had in the 90s
in a bag. My dad had one.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Right, like we're well beyond that. So all the tech now, it's not about making your life easier. It's about how much more information they can obtain from you.
Yeah,
right? Or how much they can program you through the tech, or monitor, survey everything that you do.
It goes right with the uploaded us and the emulated humans. Have you seen, I sent you a link on one version of it, but the digital twins, like GE's got the digital twin. They've made it of all the machinery. Like it's like you have a bus in the real world. Well, they're going to make it so every one of those bus systems run in a digital world too, so that we can tell if its brake pads would be wearing out soon. So we could let you know ahead of time. And it's all about convenience, but it's also adding every aspect of our life and all our gizmos and our walls and our cars, our tires, and adds them all into this digital world, which they've been building. This is a very rich simulation that they've been building. I know Corbett talked talked about years ago, this simulated world where they run like tests on what the population do. I could totally see that as being like a older version, and they've been adding to this with every aspect of our life, but because they want to live forever. And when you are uploaded into a machine, they can make copies of you. You are not going to disappear, that you can travel anywhere. They can jettison you off into space. And it's, anyway, but.
And the whole human emulation thing, which I think maybe we could do as a follow-up show, which would be just fascinating, because this is a really a pretty scary realm where it's all going. They're already selling it to you, and we've talked a lot about that in the show, that it's going to be a massive upgrade and you're going to be able to live the lifestyle that you want, and you're going to be able to stay, like, that's a lot of what this Elon Musk creature, where was he here, a lot of what he's about is selling that message that, we're going to be so irrelevant in the future, and the toaster is going to look at us and say, you know what, I don't need this bag of carbon. Let's just get rid of them, sort of thing. So they are setting the table and trying to lure people into this emulated sort of existence, which is going to be it's going to be the potential for it, and it's scary dealing with these transhumanists and where they envision the future. I think that's where a lot of the legislation that is passing and that they're proposing to give computers and stuff human status and protection under laws is setting the table for
if there's an autonomous car crash, who's at fault? That sort of talk.
Yeah. That's interesting too. Again, with the cars as well, this would be another because, okay, think about this, is we're talking about how, stepping back might be the solution, stepping back with your tech. Well, they're going to make it impossible with certain aspects. Automobiles is one of them. Now, all the cars now are surveillance devices. All cars that are produced now can readily be hacked into by NSA 8200, whatever, right?
Sure.
Yep. They're all computerized systems. And I mentioned the space shuttles before, that the space shuttles specifically use the most basic dot matrix type, system. I don't really know exactly what it is, but it's like 1960s computers in them, so that everything is just, there's no way to hack in. There's no modern tech. There's no ins or outs or anything like that. It's just there for the basic function, kind of like a calculator, right? Mm-hmm. It's like an early calculator designed to do that specific purpose. We'd like to think, well, in the future, how it's going with the cars, they're going to phase out the whole automobile industry, just like they're phasing out the tourism and the travel industry and all that. But they're going to transition us into the Uber's part of that, right? Where you don't own a car and you rent cars for small trips and stuff, and you carpool with other people and stuff like that. That's all a transition phase.
Into the autonomous Uber, because didn't an Uber driver have the coronavirus?
Yeah, there you go. Right, exactly. Well, the driverless cars are already here. They're already on your streets. You're already going to see them around. So and you saw with Elon Musk, for instance, with his hilarious Elon Musk truck there, where they smashed the windows. It was just the most apt, perfect sort of thing that could have happened in that demonstration. It just made me cry. I was crying when I watched that. I saw that. I was laughing so hard. Because
it certainly got him a lot of mileage in the media, right?
Well, that's true. Maybe they, but I honestly think it's just one of those things that they just. I mean, you'd have to think they didn't test it out before or something. But it's like egg all over your face, right? Here's your demonstration. You're going to sell this big technology, and then whoops. But the thing is that the future cars are just going to be another way of controlling humanity. And they show this in Minority Report as well, right? All the driverless cars. And if we think, well, what's the solution? Well, the solution is going backwards. The solution is buying old cars that have no computers in them, none of that. And just
wasn't it like cash for clunkers though? Didn't they years back? What president was that offered all that money to get rid of your old car?
There you go.
And they
And
weren't allowed to resell them. Then they have to get to trash them. Yeah.
With Agenda 2030, and many countries have already passed this, they're going to ban combustible engines and stuff like that. And they're already phasing out the gas stations. Just like one of the things that people may not realize is with smartphones, what have they done with the old phones, right? The pay phones. Well, they're all gone. Like there's very few of them around. That's a serious problem.
And your home phone so often is the voice over internet. It's not even just
Yeah. So all these things are part of the designs that they have for us in the future. And so you think about the cars themselves, and it was like, that would be the solution. It's like taking, like people do with like old MGs, for instance. It becomes a hobby, and you work on your car and you fix it up, and then you go out and you drive it on a Sunday afternoon down to the beach or something like that, right? And that's like the American sort of lifestyle.
But now they'll democratize that sort of entertainment, and they're going to make it so everyone can afford to do that in the digital world. And then you can go for a drive. You can take
original drive.
Democratize it all. Yeah.
But yeah, we're heading towards that where they won't allow you. This globalist New World Order will not allow you to circumnavigate their tech, this is something that is so awful moving forward for all of us, right? That they're going to make it that the only way you can travel, for instance. I just showed this. I don't know if you know this. Yeah, it's impossible to. I mean, again, I do these long shows, but yesterday I was showing on the show that the first articles in the media are coming up making it that vaccines would be mandatory for air travel.
Oh.
So that already using this, to implement their complete control system, so that you would be beholden to it, right? And all of us, because we've all kind of grown up in this global system, it's almost impossible. It's very rare, especially if you're in North America, to have all your family and friends in the same town, like the old days sort of thing, right? Your people. It's like your people are spread all over the place, So, I got family in Europe, I got family in the United States, family in across Canada sort of thing, right? Even in Asia and places like that. Now, all of a sudden, like, how are you going to continue to have interactions with those people and still manage to circumnavigate their control? It's going to be impossible in the future. This is where it's all taking. So the Agenda 2030, pushing everybody into the mega cities, moving everybody away from coastals and coastal areas, mountains, forests, and things like that. Getting all the farmers to stop growing crops and grow.
Well, and the farmers are aging. That's a big thing, is that so many farmers are the baby boomers. And then a lot of these new farmers that are coming in, they're coming in with all the tech because it's easier. You don't have to have a bunch of field hands. You can have a little signal bouncer out there in the field, and drones can fly around and they can scan the plants and see what the health level of the plants. And the internet of farming is huge. It's crazy. But
it is nuts, because it's like that. All of that is happening. Like that's what's crazy, because you think, well, you know what, I'm just going to get off the grid, but yeah, you know what? They're going to be using drones. They're going to be monitoring everything that you do from satellites and drones and whatever else. And we covered that a few weeks ago when we were talking.
Yep.
So anyways, I just noticed it is after 4. I don't want to keep you any longer than you can stay.
We'll do this again soon, though.
Yeah. So you want to close up then?
Maybe a few more minutes.
Okay, a few more. Anything that we haven't touched on with the this tech that maybe you want to talk about, or you can even, if you want, coronavirus or whatever.
Well, on the coronavirus, I would like to say that I think that it's really important how we're all going to be going forward and looking at this. And if we let them push us into that fear spot, and when they close down your area schools, and when they say you have to work from home, I mean, to talk about how ridiculous this stuff is. But I mean, it may be coming from on high. Like, schools are obviously government, and the parole officer that I know, that's government. So these are we're going the way that they want us to go with that. But I don't know, some way, like, don't stop hugging people. Don't stop shaking hands, because it's just like further disconnecting us. And then what do you care if you're just on a Google Hangout talking to somebody? Because you can still do those.
Yeah.
Might not be able to do a show. And did you know that I guess that they have for education, Google is all set for this new children have to go home for schooling sort of thing, because they've got like hundreds of people can go in the EDU Hangouts, hundreds at a time. Yeah.
They've been shifting us. And yeah, that's it. I mean, you think about it. One of the scariest things about the coronavirus is you're learning that you don't have sovereignty.
Yeah.
Right? You don't. You think you do. You don't. What? You think you do? Okay. Well, then you're in Italy. Go ahead. Leave your home.
Yeah.
You can't. And they're going to do this now to the extent that they'll do it in the West. We don't know at this point in time. I discussed why it was Italy, because of the massive anti-vax movements and lawsuits and everything that's happened there over the past couple decades dealing with vaccinations.
Yeah.
That Italy had a very strong anti-vax community. And it's one of the reasons why they specifically chose Italy. And I even showed, I don't know if you saw this, Camille, but there were Reddit posts that predicted that Italy,
saw you showed that.
Yeah, a month before it actually happened, they were predicting that Italy was going to be the very first country to have the quarantines and everything implemented. So this is very, 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 very troubling, folks.
Oh yeah, and I've already seen articles too coming out about how can synthetic biology fix this problem we're facing with the coronavirus.
Fear.
It's crazy.
Fear the solutions.
Oh, absolutely.
I fear the solutions more than anything, and that's what it scares me. This is why I put a lot of time into covering it, because we are witnessing them conditioning us into a complete one world control surveillance state. Like the surveillance, all the facial recognition, all the DNA collection, all these things that they use to monitor and collect and watch everything that we do is all being justified.
Yep.
Through this supposed pandemic. And the irony that we're March the 10th, and I said this way back. I said it I think back in January, where I was saying you'll know if it's a real pandemic within no time. Well, you still don't know, right? Because how many people are actually dying? Not all that many, really.
No, I want somebody to do a comparison showing how many people die by doctor, the pharmaceuticals, and die by all of these different things, like with last year's stats.
Yeah, and look, I mean, if it's like a dozen dead in New York City, or 7 or 8 dead in Seattle or whatever it is, that could be completely imaginary, and it could be completely different sort of. It could be people dying of the flu, or it could be cardiac arrest, or it could just be fake characters that they've created and crisis actor family members and whatnot. And that's what I was saying about pandemic. I said if it's a pandemic, you're going to know within no time, because you're going to see people falling on the street around you. It's not, if it's a real plague and it's really hitting humanity, but we don't see that, and it hasn't manifested to that. And yet, regardless of that, we still are all being forced to comply with their restrictions, their quarantines, their and inevitably their vaccines, right? That everyone, and you have Bernie Sanders. I don't know if you saw this.
Mm.
He of course he pushes the Medicare system and all that, but he's saying that the coronavirus is one of the things that he's promising, I guess, on his campaign, or he's campaigning with, for Democratic presidential candidate, right? That it should be universally available to everybody. Right? It's like, oh, Bernie's the hero. He wants us all to get the coronavirus for free. Go Bernie! It's just nuts. And again, it's like ultimately all of us, I think, every single one of us would benefit from breaking from the New World Order system and forming our own communities, our own farms, growing our own crops, our own, producing our own seeds, producing our own entertainment, our own culture, everything. That would be the solution. That's what they're going to wipe out. That's what they're wiping out right now. And they're going to make it impossible for people. Like, you know, you talk about the cars, like, you know, what do you know? What do you get into the car? What else is it? You know, these modern cars that they're producing, they're just basically,
the cameras aren't only pointing out.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And before long, there's going to be no steering wheel. It's going to be 5 years before that is going to be just commonplace. People you won't even be buying cars. They're going to phase out all those industries. Like, oh, we're saying the cruise industry, the cruise ship industry is going to be phased out. I mean, to a certain extent, it'll still exist for elites and stuff like that.
Virtual cruises.
Yeah.
You
Maybe that's where
anywhere.
those cruise industries will go into.
Oh,
They'll start
sure.
producing virtual cruises. But
the ones that have been paying attention to the way we're going.
Like the Greta yacht thing,
Maybe.
which was blown up to the nth degree, where she came from Europe to New York and then went directly to Montreal for the whole massive Extinction Rebellion garbage.
Maybe Greta could be the spokesperson.
Well, Greta taking the yacht was, to me, and I said it at the time, I said that is a sign of a massive signal to the world where the future of travel and all this is going. That they're going to get rid of all these industries. That they're going to, for the average people, we're going to be phased out of that. And now you see it with coronavirus that, you know, they're telling people not to travel anymore, right? And they're saying, and this again, when these things, like the handshakes, for instance, I showed that with Dr. Oz and all these characters saying it's over. The age of the handshake is over. Like they don't mean, no, we should just stop for a little while and, you know, just until this is gone, let's just do the fist bump or the elbow bump or whatever it is, right? No, they're saying the age of the handshake is over. The age of the kiss here in Montreal, Quebec, the double kiss, it's over. So you're deconstructing human interaction.
Yep.
Love, warmth, community, right? All these things, family, right? You're creating this, and I showed yesterday too about Howie Mandel is right, and Howie Mandel plays the obsessive compulsive disorder, who's paranoid of germs, germaphobe. Well, Greta Thunberg is a obsessive compulsive germaphobe as well, or at least that's the role she plays, right?
But it's her superpower.
It's her superpower. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess we could close her up now.
Yeah.
And I did put your link. I hope it turns up. I don't know, because I'm on a different thing here, but I put Camille's link in the description. But for, you know, when I use the StreamYard, somehow maybe it doesn't work. But maybe, Camille, you could leave a comment there in the chat to let people know.
Did.
Yeah, where to follow you. It's Please Stop the Ride. Definitely want to sub her channel. She's doing incredible videos.
I'm working on a few things right now.
Yeah, great. I love your videos and really look forward to seeing them. And big thanks for coming on the show today. Really enjoyed doing this show.
Thank you for having me on.
Always a blast
great.
And very informative. So yeah, folks, give us a thumbs up. You know, make sure you're subbed to my other channels as well. And yeah, thanks so much. Talk to people about what's going on, get them word out there. Camille is a great example. She goes around giving out business cards and directly talking to people in her community.
Yeah, be that weird person that talks to people.
There she is again.
Yeah. Do it. It's fun.
I love it. All right, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. And yeah, we'll see you guys all in the next one.